Hello, good evening to everybody. I'm Simon Booth, and this is Bolton Cricket League Beyond the Boundary. The Bolton League Executive Committee have had the idea that we interview a series of captains, chairmen, nominated players, club legends, whoever wants to speak to us about cricket and the current situation. But first things first, from the exec, I'm glad to have John Hutchinson here, who's our current league chairman. Hi, John.
Hey, Boothie. Shall I call you Simon or Boothie?
Anything you want. Anything you want.
Simon, because some people might not know you, so I'll call you Simon.
That's fine. And when you're umpiring, you call me other things anyhow, so it doesn't matter. That's fine.
I do on a regular basis.
So basically, John, first question I'm going to ask you is, why do you think, and why does the exec think that these interviews are a good idea?
Well, the Bolton Cricket League's in the unique position of being a very localised league, and we felt that, particularly at this time when everybody's got X amount of hours in the day to think of things to themselves, things to say, that we don't hear enough from, if you like, not your average player, but your players out there at clubs, your administrators out at clubs. We tend to hear from the same people all the time, and this was an ideal opportunity to hear from other people, captains, players, spectators, people like myself. Obviously, I'm only a very minor cog in the wheel, so I'll have my say as well. And it's just an ideal opportunity to have these interviews, and the league and everyone else can hear what people think and hopefully base its future decisions on what people have to say.
Okay.
It's just an interesting thing to do, and hopefully, I think we're the first to do it, and let's hope it's a success.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
So obviously, if people don't know, this is going to be the first interview that goes out on social media. It'll go out on the Twitter page. It'll go out on Facebook. It'll be uploaded to a YouTube channel as well. So hopefully, the people within Bolton area and beyond can sort of listen to these interviews and get an insight of where clubs are, where the league exec is, and what the idea is behind it.
Spot on. We're starting at the bottom and we'll work our way up,
basically. First question is it's quite a tough one, really. But how has the current coronavirus, COVID-19, whatever you want to call it, how has it affected the Bolton League and obviously the Bolton League programme?
Well, I think there's three things I wanted to say on this. First of all, the impact on overseas professionals and overseas amateurs not being able to come is clearly very significant for the league, right across the board. And that was number one. The second thing is fixture programming. We've had any number of meetings regarding reprogramming the fixtures, and it's just been an absolute headache to do it. But credit to Tracy Brooks and Ray Taylor and everybody else who's helped with that. It's been a brilliant exercise trying to get fixtures for every contingency. And thirdly, that is the issue. Every contingency, it's the uncertainty. We don't know when we'll be able to start, if at all. We've had a minimal amount of guidance, I would say, from ECB. And in fact, some of the ECB's statements have been not particularly directing us in any direction. They've been very corporate in the way they've been written. And I would think the uncertainty is the overriding thing in terms of fixtures. And lastly, of course, that's my three, so I can't even count up. I used to allow a lot of 7-ball overs, as you can tell. But I would obviously have to highlight the financial impact on our member clubs. A lot of clubs will have no income and still got regular expenditure. And although the government has brought out various schemes to help them, there will be clubs out there who are really struggling. I think a lot of our clubs aren't as badly off as some elsewhere in the country, but nevertheless, the future is not looking good for one or two clubs because of the restriction on income, or no income, full stop, and yet it's committed to certain amounts of expenditure, particularly on the clubhouses. So there we are. That's four, and they're all very significant, all four of them.
Okay, so I think if people are listening to this, and I'm hope plenty of people will listen to it, I think the question that's in everyone's head now is, well, that's all well and good, but sort of what is the league doing about it? What you as chairman and the league exec, what's actually being done about that?
Well, we've allowed an element of financial flexibility to clubs in terms of the payments that they make to the league and the league then makes to suppliers of things like cricket balls, etc. We've allowed a lot of flexibility, so we've helped them financially in that regard. And I think that the vast majority of clubs are looking to play some cricket this season, and we've gone out of our way to have a contingency for every possible starting point and try and get a fixture plan together so that we can have cricket. Obviously, the concern will be if we reach a position where we're allowed to play cricket on the fields, but the clubhouses can't open. If that was to happen, then we'd have big decisions to make, I think, which we're just taking. We haven't, as you know yourself, we haven't made any decisions on that yet, but we have at least put a plan in place for every possible starting point from the 1st of July onwards. And
I was just going to ask you that, obviously, in terms of contingency, for the viewers who obviously might not be around the Bolton Cricket League and know what's been communicated out, when you say every contingency, what do you mean by that?
Right, well, our what might prove optimistic preferred starting date is the 4th of July, which, when you watch these press conferences of an evening, is becoming a little bit less likely maybe. But what we've done then is put a contingency starting point for every Saturday after that. So we've now got fixture arrangements in place if we were able to start or allowed to start on the 11th, 18th, 25th and the 1st of August. And that's what we've done. And we've got plans in place, which I could go on to later, if we're not even allowed to start by the beginning of August. But fingers crossed, or everything crossed, that we will be able to start by August.
But in a nutshell, when we... Sorry. So in a nutshell, when we get the green light, the league has got a plan to start pretty much immediately.
We've got a plan to start pretty much immediately. We wanted to set a starting date of the 4th of July so that people know that our wish is to start on the 4th of July. You know, the authorities above us. But obviously there are greater things at play at the moment, and
absolutely. But
we're aiming to start on the 4th of July with a fixture programme that's been developed by Tracy Brooks, and as I say, fingers and everything else crossed, because who knows at this stage whether we'll be able to or not.
Sort of it's out of our hands, isn't it? We can plan for every eventuality, but essentially it's the government, the governing bodies. You know, ultimately they're going to tell us whether we can start or not.
Absolutely, and we're very much led by government. I personally would like to see more of a recognition at the top level that we need to reach a position where we can live our lives alongside the virus. That's what I would say. That we need to start to be able to live some sort of a life in the next 3 or 4 weeks.
Well, I'm gonna put a pin in that, John, because I'm gonna come back to that if that's okay. That's one of my other questions. So, one thing that obviously I have spoken to players about, and captains and chairman and what have you, is obviously the situation. Obviously, we're a league that actively promotes the services of professionals.
Yeah.
So obviously we bring professionals in from other countries, we bring in overseas amateurs from other countries, and obviously clubs, employ the services of UK-based pros. In your opinion, what's the importance, I think, more of pros and overseas playing, our sort of grassroots game, really?
Well, I think the old system of the pro, the overseas pro and the overseas amateur increasing the playing standards of the league still applies. And obviously the supply of overseas professionals is a lot more restricted than it used to be. But I would be absolutely heartbroken if we were prevented from having overseas pros in particular, because in my opinion, the standard of cricket would only suffer as a result. I think our playing standards have maintained reasonably well over the years, and I can just see no pro, maybe some of the overseas amateurs, the better ones as well.
Yeah.
None of them equals a rapid decline in playing standards, in my view. At the end of the day, the supply of young lads and girls, juniors, wanting to play cricket has gone down significantly. So if you take away high standards from the top level, how are you going to maintain the overall playing standard? Because you haven't got the same supply of young lads and girls coming in from the bottom. Well, not from the bottom, from below, from teams below the first teams. So no, it would be disastrous if to professional leagues like the Bolton League if we weren't able to continue in the way that we do now with overseas pros and overseas amateurs.
Something that we chatted about when I spoke to Mark Atherton from West Orton, and something he mentioned about the pros, exactly the same thing. And something that he did mention was obviously the potential drop in revenue if pros weren't allowed, because he feels that, we had a good giggle and a chat about this, that people don't come to watch me and Mark, they go to watch a professional, a big name, someone that's coming from overseas, a big West Indian name, or a top class Pakistani player. So Mark was saying that it would have an effect on the club's revenue streams as well, because you just wouldn't get as many people watching.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, the number of sort of big name professionals has gone down over the years, of course, but nevertheless, they still exist, and I do agree that it would adversely affect clubs' revenue streams significantly, in my view. Not just clubs who have the big names professionals, but the clubs who they're playing against as well.
Yeah.
People travelling to away games to watch a particular pro, boosting the bar takings and the general takings of the club that's hosting the fixture. That will go, and it can't be a good thing. It's a retrograde step.
I mean, I think Kersley and just to name a few, Kersley and who was the other team? Little Lever had signed, ex-international Test cricketers. Yeah. So, like you said, maybe the crop of professionals are not around these days like they were, 10, 15 years ago to get, but that's not our fault. There's more cricket to be played around the world, and there's more offerings for these people, but they're still there. The players are still there, and I think long may that continue.
The revenue streams and bar takings at Kersley and Little Lever was significantly higher.
Yeah, agreed.
Little Lever with the new balcony, it'll be phenomenal.
Yeah.
If I come back umpiring, I won't be umpiring there. I used to get enough abuse as it was before.
we spoke about that with Josh actually the other night. So that's.
They tell you it's a wide from the balcony, which is at cover point.
Yeah, well, they know better than you, John. You should know that by now.
Absolutely.
Moving swiftly on, next question I want to ask you is regarding T20 cricket, something that obviously is incredibly popular all around the world. There's more, more competitions being, dreamt up as we speak. What I'm going to ask you is obviously, one, how does T20 cricket, how is that perceived at obviously league committee level, and how important is it for the game?
Well, T20 is perceived throughout the executive a key revenue driver for a lot of clubs, particularly the ones who choose to play T20s in the normal season on a Friday evening. Clubs like Blackrod and Horwich make a lot of money from T20 cricket. Now, this season, I think T20 is going to provide us with an opportunity, fingers crossed, insofar as we'll be able to, in view of the amended fixture list, we'll be able to play T20 cricket more at weekends, particularly on Sundays, maybe with 2 or 3 teams playing on one venue and getting a crowd watching games on one venue, and maybe even going as far as having days where your first, second and third team all play T20 on the same day, sort of
like a round robin sort of thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think these opportunities are there for us to take now that our season is going to be not look in any way like a normal season. And we're very keen to promote T20 cricket, particularly in our area where there are so many local derbies.
Brilliant. Okay. So my last question to you, John, and obviously I'll if you've got anything to say or you want people to know, then we'll add that on at the end. But how obviously the current situation with coronavirus, what do you think it's done to the game at our level, and do you think it'll affect it in the future?
I think that it's in some strange ways it's brought people closer together. Some club members doing more than they previously did, simply because it's a catastrophic situation that we're in. But going forward, I think it's the effect. My main issue on going forward is the effect it'll have on junior cricket. I feel that, you can imagine being such and such a player at, let's say, Astley Bridge or whatever, and you're an under 15 lad, and you've been looking forward to your under 15 season because you're now 15 years old, and you've been looking forward to it, and you're going to lose your full season or a lot of your season. So I think the scope there I'd like to see leagues changing the age groups next season to stop that, to avoid that happening, so that people who are looking forward to this season at the top age group still get the chance next season. So in other words, for one season only, increase the age group by 1 year, something like that, so that nobody loses out, I don't think, and we prevent people losing out due to the coronavirus.
So you go to like a 10, 12, 14, 16, 19 sort of situation.
I would, just for one season, because I mean, I know that you could argue, well, the same thing will happen next season, but at least you're forewarned. But this time they haven't been forewarned, and I feel sorry for anybody who's in that position. And that is one area I think the Bolton League hopefully could take a lead if others may follow. I just think it's a good idea.
Okay, fair enough. Is there anything you want to add? Is there anything that you want, potential viewers to know from the chair?
Yeah, well, as potential viewers or viewers, I hope they're not potential viewers, that means they've switched off. But viewers, I would like to say that viewers will be aware of some not issues, but some press comment in the past regarding ourselves and the Greater Manchester Cricket League. And I just wanted to highlight the fact that, and this is not going anywhere, it's not a political point, it's just a truth, that I feel, and you can take this whichever way you like, I feel that strongly that there is room in cricket to adopt the football model for the Bolton and Bury areas. I feel that we need to get away from having, this is for junior cricket, we need to get away from just administering our own leagues for junior cricket in those particular areas of hotbed areas of Bolton and Bury. And I'd like to see a Bolton and Bury Junior Cricket League along the same lines as the Bolton and Bury District Junior Football League. And that's what I would like to see. So at least I've now made it public that I think that's the best way to control and organise junior cricket effectively in Bolton and Bury. So okay. Nothing to do with anything that you expected me to say, but I've said it now.
Yeah, you led us up the garden path a bit then, John.
At least when I get lynched, at least I've said it beforehand. So. Okay.
Right, fair enough. Well, obviously, if there's anybody out there who feels strongly about that and they feel the same way, then I think, reach out.
Well, sometimes I think in the Bolton League, we're seen as being very isolated, that we're only bothered about our own league and our own Bolton area. But in this particular case, I can just see if there was a league like that or a cricket organisation developed such as that all the clubs in the area will benefit from increased competition and opportunities, etc., and nobody would lose out. So why wouldn't you do it? That's how I see it.
Fair point, John. So if there's anybody out there who feels strongly about that and they want to, maybe have a chat with John and see if there's any mileage in that, then get involved, get in touch. John Hutchinson, Chairman of the Bolton Cricket League, thank you very much for your time. Obviously, this will be aired on the social media channels and what have you, and hopefully you don't get too much stick.
Well, it's all water over ducks back these days. Thanks, Simon.
No problem at all. Thanks for your time, John.
Bye.
See you soon.